He has approved the appointment of 14 permanent secretaries. The governor said the decision is an attempt to strengthen the leadership of the state civil service and reposition it for greater service delivery. The governor, in a statement on Friday by his special advisor media Yinka Oyebode, stated that the appointment follows their success in the competitive examination and selection process. The list of the new permanent secretaries, according to the statement, is as follows: Engineer Philip Ekundayo Atere, Mr. Olajide Ayodele Borode, Mr. Francis Bamisaye Omotosho, amongst others. The governor tasked the new permanent secretaries to justify the confidence reposed in them by contributing their quotas to the development agenda of the administration through excellent service delivery. Justice Ian Ekor of the Federal High Court in Abuja has dismissed the preliminary objection filed by the National Youth Service Corps against Enugu State Governor Peter Mba's 20 billion naira suit over alleged certificate forgery. In his ruling, Justice Ekor held that the provisions of Section 20 of the NYSC Act do not relate to Mba, as he is not currently a serving NYSC member, and intended ECPA to end all sit-at-home in the Southeast. Kanu also directed ECPA to stop antagonizing governors of the Southeast or politicians from the region. He warned that anyone enforcing sit-at-home in the Southeast is not his disciple and should be made to face the wrath of the law. The IPOB leader issued the directive in a message to ECPA, which was made public on Friday by his special counsel. We'll be back after this break. Television network. The governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in Ogun State, Ladi Adebutu, on Friday closed his case at the Election Petition Tribunal after calling 94 witnesses. The petitioner, who is challenging the alleged refusal of the Independent National Electoral Commission to comply with the Electoral Act, has also tendered over 200,000 documents before the tribunal to prove his case. Adebutu, in his petition, alleged that elections were disrupted by hoodlums suspected to be political thugs in over 99 polling units, disenfranchising over 40,000 voters from participating in the March 18 governorship polls. Adebutu called voters and party agents from Shagamu, Ikene, Odobulu, Remo North, Ogun Waterside, Ijebu-Ode, Abeokuta South, Abeokuta North, Odo Ota, and other local governments as witnesses to prove that there were disruptions in the different polling units across the state. The petitioner also summoned with subpoena to two INEC ad hoc staff in an official of the West African Examination Council, a statistician and a forensic expert to testify before the tribunal. Adebutu also tendered in evidence certified true copies of INEC electoral materials, resulting sheets, voter registers, printouts from the bimodal voters accreditation machines, incident forms, video evidence, forensic experts. Meanwhile, INEC is expected to open its defense on Wednesday, being the first respondent in the petition. Abductors of a farmer, Banji Idowu in Osun State, have demanded the sum of 15 million naira as a ransom. Idowu, a retired teacher, was kidnapped on Monday evening while working on his farm at Iregun via Ilowo in Obokun local government area of the state. It was gathered that the victim made a WhatsApp video call with his wife, who was not in the country, in the afternoon of the farm before the incident. When he contacted Osun Police Command spokesperson Yemisi Obalola, confirmed the incident, saying police operatives are in the forest in the area searching for the victim and his abductors. The Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has finally transmitted 39 names for screening and confirmation as commissioners and special advisors designated to the State House of Assembly. This came following a series of lobbying and horse trading by various interest groups to have their candidates nominated. The Chief Press Secretary to the Boyiga, Governor Boyiga Akosile, announced the transmission of nominees on Friday via his official Twitter handle. You will recall that Governor Sanwo-Olu, along with his deputy Dr. Bafemi Hamzat, took their oath of office and sworn in allegiance on May 29, 2023, after emergence and declaration as winner of the governorship 2023 poll. Meanwhile, one of the lawmakers in the House of Assembly confided in our correspondent that the list comprises of 30% women, youths, technocrats, and seasoned politicians. The Federal Road Safety Corps in Niger State says road traffic crashes claimed no fewer than 473 lives in the state between January 2022 and June 2023. The State Sector Commander Kumar Sukwam stated this in an interview on Friday in Minna. Sukwam explained that in view of the high number of deaths recorded through RTCs in the states, the command was working tirelessly to reduce crashes in the states, the barest minimum. He reported that within the period under review, the command recorded 766 road crashes with about 5,272 persons involved and 2,607 sustaining various degrees of injuries. The sector commander also said that 204 of the RTCs were fatal, 483 serious, while 70 The Gombe State Governor Mohammed Yahaya has approved the appointment of 12 new permanent secretaries in the state's civil service. The acting head of civil service, Ahmed Abdullahi, who conveyed the governor's approval, said the appointments were based on their suitability in terms of credentials, experience, hard work, commitment, and loyalty, as well as their performance at the promotion examinations and interviews. According to Abdullahi, the development is also in line with the present administration's commitment to reinvigorating the civil service, and he resolved to ensure that hard-working civil servants attain the peak of their careers before retirement. Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State has sworn in the head of service, special advisors, and 27 caretaker management committee chairmen for service delivery. According to him, workers should imbibe the core values of the society of civil service in delivering various services at the grassroots. The head of service is Malam Fanami, while the two special advisors to go to the governor on communications and strategy is Malam Isa Gusau, and Brigadier General Ishak Sabi is on security respectively. Inaugurating the appointees in Maiduguri, the governor, represented by his deputy Kadafo Usman, disclosed that the head of service shall pay greater attention to train and retrain all categories of civil servants, adding that this will include computer training to improve on the development of human and capital resources. He added that the state government will introduce and strengthen the reward and punishment system in the civil service. Product worth more than 10 million naira at hawkers and illegal drug sellers outlets in some parts of Kaduna State. Tamua Andrew Baba, NAFDAC's director, Investigation and Enforcement, Pharmaceutical Enforcement Directorate, Kaduna State, made the disclosure on Friday in Kaduna State. He explained that the raid was conducted to clear what hawkers on the streets, motor parks, and around worship centers, adding that 8 operatives arrested 6 suspects. Andrew Baba added that the raid was conducted following the media sensitization campaign on the dangers of drug hawking and ripening of fruits with calcium carbide, which began 2 weeks ago. Towards fulfilling some of his campaign pledges on education, Governor Diko Umaru Rada has approved the release of 2.7 billion naira for the construction of 75 junior and secondary schools across all the 34 local government areas of the state, Katsina State. The construction is supported by the World Bank project, aims to enhance secondary school education opportunities for adolescent girls in the state. A statement by Ibrahim Kaula Mohammed, the Chief Press Secretary CPS to the Katsina State Governor, however, indicates that the said amount represent 20% initial advance payments to the contractors. According to the statement, Mal Rada authorized the contractors to complete the entire project within 12 months. The Zamfara State Governor Dauda Lawal has inaugurated a 6-man revenue recovery tribunal headed by Rabiu Bashir and Musa Labo, who will serve as a secretary. Governor Dauda charged members of the tribunal to discharge their constitutional responsibility diligently without fear of favor, noting that they were carefully selected among their peers to serve with the belief that they would not disappoint the state. Governor Lawal urged the tribunal to ensure it recovers every revenue due to the states for sustainable and concrete development in the overall interests of all. He assured members of the tribunal that the state government would give them all the necessary support and cooperation needed to succeed in the task ahead. In her acceptance speech, the chairperson of the tribunal, Rabiu Bashar, a lawyer, pledged to work diligently to enable tribunal discharge its duties. The Federal Capital Territory Administration has embarked on a vaccine for noodles campaign as part of the deliberate efforts to mobilize residents, especially in rural areas, to allow their bodies receive vaccination for the circulating vaccine derived poliovirus type 2. While the World Health Organization had in 2020 certified Nigeria polio-free, there emerged the type 2 variant of the virus in 2021. Executive Secretary FCT Primary Health Care Board, Dr. Isa Y. Vatsa, who disclosed this at the news conference February in Abuja. You're still watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. We'll be back to you after the break. Welcome back to the Global News. Crisis rocking the new Nigeria People's Party has taken a new dimension as the National Working Committee of the party has sacked all its executive officers in 7 states. While addressing journalists on Friday in Abuja, the NNPP National Publicity Secretary Dr. Agbo Major, who noted that the dissolution of the executive officers of these state cuts across all levels from states, local governments, and ward, in line with the party's constitution as 2022 as amended. According to the National Publicity Secretary, the states are Enugu State, Ekiti State, Rivers State, Niger State, Katsina State, Kaduna State, and Zamfara State, adding that a five-man caretaker committee has been constituted to run the affairs of the party in affected states. Agbo Major said the party, aside sacking the executives in Enugu State, has suspended the state governorship candidates Kajetan Eze and the senatorial candidates Enugu North, Professor Onyeka A. Onyeka. The party disclosed that it did not sack the executives in Oyo and Imo States in view of the forthcoming governorship election in Imo State and local government elections in Oyo State. Meanwhile, ahead of the November Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa States gubernatorial elections, the NNPP has called on the Independent National Electoral Commission to conduct free, fair, credible, and inclusive gubernatorial elections in Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa States, saying that Nigerians expect transparent and generally acceptable election in this state as the nation look forward to deepening the emerging democracy. Ahead of the upcoming governorship elections in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo State, the National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party has set up a 363-member strong campaign council to coordinate its campaign in the three states. A document which was signed and released by the party's National Publicity Secretary Debo Ologunagba showed that the team of Bayelsa State has the highest number of party leaders with 122. This was closely followed by Imo State 121 members and Kogi State with 120. Taraba State Governor Kefas Abu is to chair the committee in charge of Bayelsa State. He is to be assisted by the National Working Committee of the ruling All Progressive Congress has fixed meetings of its National Caucus and National Executive Committee for August 2nd and 3rd. This was contained in a statement issued Friday in Abuja and signed by the acting National Secretary, Barrister Festus Fuanta. The meetings, which should have held earlier in July, were shifted following the leadership crisis that engulfed the party. The federal government has shifted the date for its new monthly pension payment for pensioners in the parastatals under the Ministry of Power and Transportation. Gbenga Ajayi, head of the Corporate Communications at the Pension Transitional Arrangement Directorate, disclosed this on Friday in a statement. According to him, the July date earlier fixed for the commencement of the back-end computation project for prisoners has been adjusted to August 2023. He explained that the change in the implementation dates became necessary to resolve all the logistics challenges that had impaired production and other issues. Justice Iyang Eko of the Federal High Court in Abuja has fixed October 25th for a judgment in a suit filed by Senator Adamu Bawkachiwa against the Attorney General of the Federation, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences and Commission, Department of State Services, and the Nigerian Police Force. Bawkachiwa is accusing the ICPC, DSS, and others of colluding with his political enemies to harass him following his valedictory comments on the floor of the Senate, which he said his political enemies law of the Senate, which he said many had misinterpreted to mean that he had influenced his wife his wife's handling of some cases while she was the president of the Court of Appeal. Bokochiwa stated that he was surprised to receive an invitation from the ICPC asking him to report for interview on June 22nd for interrogation over his commitment on the floor of the Senate. And the day's hearing, counsel to Bokochiwa, Donald Ajibowu, urged the court to grant all the reliefs sought. After listening to both parties, Justice Ian Eko subsequently adjourned the suit to October 25th for judgment. The Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters, Abdullahi Gumel, says documentation for all 28 ministerial nominees has commenced. Who disclosed this to reporters in Abuja said the nominees are to visit the office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters at the National Assembly between Friday 28th and Sunday 30th July for necessary documentation ahead of screening, which commences on Monday, July 31st, 2023. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Thursday forwarded lists containing 28 ministerial nominees to the Senate for decreeing and confirmation for appointments. According to the chairman, Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Senator Yemi Adaramodu, APC Ekiti South, the screening of the nominees by the Committee of the Whole of the Senate would begin on Monday. The long-awaited ministerial list released by President Tinubu was a surprise to many, as some big wigs did not make the list. The 28 member of President Bola Tinubu's ministerial list released Thursday had notable names missing, especially allies from the All Progressive Congress. While speaking on Atlantic Television Network Blowout, the socio-political analyst Ronald Douglas said the technicality behind the ministerial list can be related to President Tinubu's choice of cabinet.
A lot of us Nigerians are surprised that most of those people that was asked to step down for him should have been considered probably the first. But it all depends also, what the intentions of the sitting president. There are a lot of issues, and so he's looking at how to get some kind of nationalistic outlook, by co-opting the opposition party members, and then also identifying those whom he feels have worked hard, for him to expected at least a paradigm shift from the previous administration, and then also having a complete list of those whom he knows he has identified during his campaign and also has identified during the election period. But that's, that's his prerogative. So he's going to take us by surprise, and then probably, come up probably with the best of his key players at the supplementary list. That's just what I
The Inter-Party Advisory Council has urged President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to uphold his campaign promise of running an all-inclusive government following the release of the ministerial list of nominees. The council calls for greater inclusivity, particularly by incorporating more opposition party members into the government in order to strengthen the country's stability. In a statement on Friday, Yabagi Sani, the national chairman of IPAC, while appreciating the president's management of state affairs, Sani expressed the need for a shift from the winner-takes-all approach. Sani further emphasized the need for inclusivity, suggesting that the use of the coup in Republic of Niger that has upended the constitutional political leadership in the state in the West Africa. Tinubu in a statement condemned the current political situation in the neighboring country. He also promised that ECOWAS and the international community would do everything to defend democracy and ensure democratic governance continues to take firm root in the sub-region. The U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in separate telephone calls on Thursday with Tinubu, affirmed the support of the U.S. and UN for the position taken by ECOWAS and the Nigerian leader to restore constitutional order in Niger. Soldiers from Niger's presidential guard deposed President Mohamed Bazoum and closed the country's borders while entrances to government ministries were also blocked. Meanwhile, former President Muhammad Buhari has expressed shock over the coup d'etat that toppled President Mohamed Bazoum in ex-Niger Republic. The former president, however, said he was happy that President Bola Tinubu is already dealing with the development to reverse the coup. Buhari stated this in a statement via his verified Twitter handle on Friday. The former Nigerian leader said he has confidence in the President Tinubu's ability to resolve the crisis. Buhari assured the people that Tinubu would be able to reverse the situation and ensure the safety of Bazoum and his family. President Bola Tinubu has hailed Senate leader Senator Opeyemi Bamidele on the occasion of his 60th birthday. The president noted that the lawmaker representing Ekiti Central constituency rose to the national prominence through such steadfastness, loyalty, commitment, to progressive politics. In a press statement signed by the State House Director of Information Abiodun Oladunjoye and made available to newsmen, Tinubu described Bamidele as a trusted ally and confident. Senator Bamidele was commissioner during Tinubu's administration. Nigeria face. He also insisted that they must wear the name tag on their face. The customs boss gave this directive at a meeting with patrol heads of the Federal Operations Unit A after rounding off his maiden visit to the same area commands and other customs formations in Zone A. This was contained in a statement the National Public Relations Officer Chief Superintendent of Customs Abdullahi Maiwada issued in Abuja. It added that the CGC warned that operational vehicles must be appropriately marked and positioned at the assigned patrol points. He beckoned on the personnel to be more professional and conscious without compromising national security and always uphold the ethics of their profession in the discharge of their duties and outward appearance. The National Emergency Management Agency has received another batch of 198 stranded Nigerians evacuated from the war-torn Sudan in Abuja. The staffs of NEMA, National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons and Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, among others, were on ground to welcome the returnees. The returnees, comprised of 160 adults and 38 children, arrived the Pilgrims Wing of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja. This figure brings to total 2,858 Nigerians evacuated All right, welcome back to ATN Global News, and it's time for business news. Civil society organizations and relevant stakeholders engaged in brainstorming sessions seeking to navigate the challenges facing Nigeria occasioned by the subsidy removal. These stakeholders gathered in Abuja under the banner of the National Dialogue on Subsidy Removal, facilitated by the United States Agency for International Development and Palladium, discussed the policy's implementation, which commenced on May 29, 2023. While speaking on this on Atlantic Television Network Blowout, a socio-political analyst, Ronald Douglas, said the solution in cushioning the effect of subsidy cannot be achieved through continuous discussions alone without taking viable steps and actions on the issue.
As a matter of fact, has turned into a talk shop. We've got a lot of seminars, a lot of workshops, a lot of meetings, and apparently it ends up just being a white paper that the government itself will not be interested in implementing. But fair enough, the US government has shown interest and they are arranging this. But my problem is, do we have any government presence in these talk shops that will have, you know, the zeal or the will to pass on some of the outcome of these talk shops to the government for implementation? I think that where we should emphasize, you know, and impact more on the government is that, look, yes, the subsidy has been removed, but we need to start taking on certain policy statements that will also be monitored and supervised by the relevant departments. We are talking about our exchange rate. It's skyrocketing. Nobody's telling us anything, either from the CBN or from the finance ministry. And that, to a large extent, is also affecting quite a lot of the other economic activities. Who have been able to, you know, demystify refining crude oil products. All we have to do is engage them and then show them the hazards, and then let them know that the environmental impact with the crude way they are going about it is something that is going to stay with us for decades to come. And then make them to pay tax, give them the necessary training, and then encourage them to go ahead and do it. While they were there, when the refineries were, you know, hip-hopping, we had a lot of these products all over. Yes, they probably may not have had the best quality assurance and quality control measures, but these things are practical, and these young men in the creeks have been able to demonstrate that. So what I don't understand is that why these refineries, there are people that are being paid every month, and we've spent huge, humongous trillions of dollars on turnaround maintenance that has refused to turn around the maintenance of these refineries. The MD ought to have resigned. All those that they have appointed in the, that are, you know.
President Bola Tinubu has expressed the willingness of the federal government of Nigeria to support global tech giants Google Incorporated to create 1 million digital jobs in Nigeria. The president gave the assurance during the visit of Google Global Vice President Mr. Richard Gingras at the presidential villa Abuja. He told the visiting Google executive that Nigeria had creative and talented young people who are ready and motivated to learn, especially at this age of artificial intelligence, stressing that the tech giant has the capability and tools that the young people need to excel. In his address, the Google vice president had earlier told President Bola Tinubu that he was in Nigeria for West Africa Journalism Innovation Conference. He said he had been inspired by the creativity and talent of young people in Nigeria who are embracing technology and digital tools to expand access to information and promote democracy. Kenya, Nigeria, and Zimbabwe have become the epic centers of an intense battle for stock market glory in Africa. According to a report by the Capital International Index, movements in dollar-denominated returns from investors across these nations, with each vying for supremacy in the equities market. The data illustrates the performance of each country's equities markets during the first half of 2023. Kenya, known for its vibrant financial landscape, faced challenges as it posted paper losses of 30.9%, marking the weakest returns among the three contenders, while Nigeria, with its robust and diverse economy, reported losses of 24.3%. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe's market experienced a 20.7% contraction, showcasing its resilience amidst various economic challenges. However, several African nations emerged as outliers, displaying remarkable strength amid the prevailing trends. And now bringing international tidbits. There are indications that Russia will be pushing for revival of its foreign direct investment in Nigeria and other African nations across every sector of the economy. President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, gave this indication at the first plenary session with heads of governments of African nations at the ongoing Africa Economic and Humanitarian Forum holding in St. Petersburg, Russia. According to him, Russia is set to renew the direct investment model for which its government under the Soviet Union was known for across sectors of the third world economies. He named the sectors to include iron and steel industries, petroleum refineries, industrial machinery, manufacturing, amongst others. Nigeria has been one of the major beneficiaries of the Soviet Union's FDI in these areas. The Kremlin leader also signed agreements for military cooperation with over 40 African countries. France's President Emmanuel Macron says France does not recognize the leaders of the Putsch who claim to have seized power in Niger and considers detained President Mohamed Bazoum the country's sole leader. The French Foreign Ministry reaffirmed in the strongest terms declared demands of the international community, calling for the immediate restoration of constitutional order and democratically elected civilian government in Niger. Chiani, head of the Presidential Guard since 2011, earlier read a statement as the president of the National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland on the third day since Bazoum was detained. Bazoum and his family have been confined since Wednesday to their residence at the Presidential Palace located within the Guard's military camp. He is said to be in good health and has been able to talk by telephone to other heads of state, including Macron. And that's the size of the global news for tonight. Thank you for staying with us. But before we go, here is another look at the major stories. Governor Fubara assures completion of bridge linking Abua Agba Ndele. Governor Diri warns against a war ahead of Gubar poll. President Tinubu hosts ECOWAS special meeting. Nigeria, Kenya, Zimbabwe battle for stock market glory. Thank you for watching. I'm Vivian Douglas. You can follow us on our social media handles. On Twitter, we're Atlantic TV Net. On Facebook and YouTube, we're Atlantic Television Network. On Instagram and TikTok, we're Atlantic TV Network 1. Do remember that peace and unity are the pathway to progress. Have a good day.